The gentle morning light streamed into our kitchen in Boston's upscale Beacon Hill neighborhood. On this morning, with winter's chill still lingering in the air, I was making my daughter Amy's favorite blueberry pancakes. The pearl necklace around my neck softly gleamed in the morning light. It was a precious heirloom from my mother, and wearing it always brought me peace. "Mom, are you coming to my swim meet today? I know I can win first place." Standing at the stove, I couldn't help but smile. Amy's voice always carried the warmth of sunshine. When I turned around, my 6-year-old daughter was twirling her uniform skirt, looking up at me with eyes full of hope. Her golden hair shimmered in the morning sun. In her small hands, she clutched a swim cap with a blue ribbon. "Of course, Amy. This is Mommy's special day. I've rearranged all my work meetings." While plating the pancakes on a star-shaped dish, Amy's favorite, I gently stroked her head. Amy broke into a wide smile and rushed to the table. She poured plenty of maple syrup and contentedly puffed out her cheeks as she ate. It was an ordinary, happy morning scene. As the sales director at Nexstar Pharmaceuticals, I led a consistently busy life, but these morning moments with Amy were my irreplaceable treasure. However, I didn't realize then just how precious this peaceful daily life was. The divorce 2 years ago had dramatically changed our lives. When Michael's workaholic tendencies and affair with his secretary Jennifer came to light, I felt like I'd lost everything. As a sharp investment banker at Goldman Sachs, Michael was always demanding perfection, and he was controlling at home too. But with the substantial alimony and rights to this house, I thought I could at least provide Amy with a stable life. Life after divorce turned out to be unexpectedly comfortable. On weekends, mother and daughter enjoyed cooking together and reading books at the local library. When reading The Little Mermaid, Amy would dance around pretending to be the mermaid princess, and her innocent behavior would heal my heart. I watched over Amy's swim practice and enjoyed picnics in Boston Common. Our small world of two was filled with genuine happiness. But recently, that peace had begun to waver. Michael's demands for increased child support. Sudden phone calls and unexpected visits. His obsession seemed to be growing stronger by the day. Just yesterday, he had suddenly appeared at my company, demanding to discuss Amy's custody. His appearance in his usual perfect 3-piece suit was still intimidating. "Mom, why is Dad so angry? He was waiting in front of school yesterday." One night, Amy asked this question. I caught my breath. He had gone to the school. But trying not to worry Amy, I carefully chose my words. "Dad is just worried about us. But there's no need to worry. Mommy will always protect you." As I said this, I could feel anxiety growing in my chest. My intuition was sending me warnings. This premonition would soon become reality and forever change our lives. But at that time, I still didn't know. After showering and changing into her uniform, Amy cheerfully said, "I'm off. I'll definitely win a medal today," and ran toward the school bus. As I watched her back disappear, I quietly prayed, clutching my pearl necklace. "Please let this happiness continue forever." The children's clothing section at the Cambridge Side Galleria Mall was bustling. Amy's swim meet had ended with a brilliant gold medal, and we had come shopping as a reward. The clock showed 3 p.m. A peaceful weekend afternoon atmosphere flowed through the mall. "Mom, this dress is so cute. Don't I look like a princess?" Amy held a white lace dress against her chest and twirled around. She struck graceful poses like a ballerina in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror. It was indeed cute, but the size was about 2 sizes too big. "Amy, that's too big for you. How about this light blue one? You could wear this right away." "But I want this one. I can wear it when I grow bigger. Please, Mom." Just then, my phone rang. The display showed Goldman Sachs. It was Michael. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. His voice demanding to discuss Amy's custody entered my ear. While focusing on the conversation, I kept watching Amy. She was still spinning around in front of the mirror. "Caroline, let's talk directly, not just through lawyers. It's for Amy's sake. Everything should be settled already. Further discussion isn't." That's when it happened. Amy had vanished from before my eyes. "Amy?" I called out. No response. Only my panicked expression was reflected in the mirror. "Amy? Where are you?" I hung up the phone and desperately looked around. The children's clothing section had only other parents with their children. Amy was nowhere to be seen. My heart began to race. A suffocating fear washed over me. I ran through the department. I searched everywhere, around the escalators, fitting rooms, bathrooms. Gradually, my voice turned into screams. My calls for her name grew louder. Panic was setting in. In my mind, Amy's last smile was burned into my memory. Though it had happened just minutes ago, it felt like a distant past. 30 minutes later, security and police arrived. Checking the surveillance cameras, they found footage of Amy walking hand in hand with an unknown woman. That woman looked like Jennifer. Though most of her face was hidden behind black sunglasses and a scarf, that posture was unmistakably hers. "Please confirm the whereabouts of Michael Williams." The police officer gave instructions over the radio. Inside me, the worst premonition began to feel real. The next few hours passed in confusion. Police inquiries. Detailed review of security cameras. Investigation of Michael's office. Questioning of Goldman Sachs colleagues. However, no decisive evidence was found. On Michael's desk was a receipt for airline tickets to Paris. But it was from a week ago. The security cameras showed Amy getting into a black SUV. And that car disappeared in the direction of Boston Logan International Airport. From that day, my 10 years of anguish began. Amy's room remained preserved exactly as it was. The gold medal from the swim meet still lay on her desk. In the closet, the white dress she had tried on that day still hung with its tags attached. On the walls were many photos of Amy's smiling face. Swim meets, birthday parties, Christmas. In every photo, She showed a radiant smile. Every morning before work, I would enter that room and say, "Good morning," to the photos of Amy's smiling face. On weekends, I would arrange fresh flowers and adjust the positions of her favorite stuffed animals. Sometimes I would sit on the bed for hours, holding the blanket that still carried her scent. Time passed mercilessly. The police investigation hit dead ends, and tracking Michael and Jennifer proved extremely difficult. They were believed to have headed to Paris, but their trail went cold there. Despite an international warrant being issued, no significant information was obtained. Cooperation with French police was hampered by bureaucratic walls, and progress was painfully slow. However, I never gave up hope. Every day, I continued searching for new information. I hired private investigators, monitored social media, and collected information about similar kidnapping cases. I checked missing persons databases worldwide and even investigated school enrollment records in France. At night, I would pray while clutching my pearl necklace. This necklace inherited from my mother had become my only emotional support. "Amy, you will definitely be found. Mommy will never give up." 10 years later at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. I had just arrived in the arrival lobby to attend an international pharmaceutical conference. Dragging my tired feet, I rolled my suitcase along. My briefcase was still stuffed with unread conference materials. As sales director at Nexstar Pharmaceuticals, I made several overseas business trips each year. Perhaps I had immersed myself in work to try to soften the memories of that day. Through the arrival lobby's large windows, the Paris cityscape was visible. The tip of the Eiffel Tower was faintly visible through the morning haze. If Amy could see this view. As always, that thought constricted my chest. 10 years had been engraved as a wound that would never heal. Even now, every morning I say, "Good morning," in Amy's room and touch the pearl necklace to offer prayers. The habit hasn't changed. Passing through the arrival lobby and clearing customs, I stood in line at passport control while turning off my phone's airplane mode. There were 3 missed calls from Boston police. My heart began to race. That's when it happened. "Maman." Suddenly, a voice called out from behind. A call with a French accent mixed in. That voice somehow resembled the voice that had disappeared 10 years ago. I turned around. There stood Amy, grown to 16 years old. Her golden hair had grown to her waist, and her slender height was almost the same as mine. Those azure eyes, unchanged from that day, gazed steadily at me. Her figure in a white dress looked as if she had finally grown into the dress she had tried on in the mall 10 years ago. "Amy." My voice trembled. My legs wouldn't move. My hand clutching the pearl necklace was shaking violently. Tears welled up in Amy's eyes. She tried to step forward but was stopped by someone. That's when I first noticed the presence of 2 people standing next to her. Michael and Jennifer. After 10 years, their appearances had changed slightly. White had mixed into Michael's hair, and deep wrinkles were etched on Jennifer's face. However, the controlling light in Michael's eyes remained unchanged from 10 years ago. Caroline, let's calmly discuss. The moment Michael tried to speak, my hand was already gripping my smartphone. I pressed the International Police Organization hotline registered as an emergency contact. Amy screamed. Her voice mixed French and English. Confusion and fear floated in her eyes. What lies had been planted in her over these 10 years? The sound of airport police rushing over began to be heard. Michael's face tensed. Jennifer was trembling. People began to stop and stare at this unusual scene. That's when Amy said in a small voice, "Mom, you really were alive." Those words froze my heart. What had she been made to believe? How could we bridge the deep gulf that 10 years had created? But now was not the time for that. Police sirens were approaching. The morning quiet of Terminal 2F was suddenly enveloped in tension. "It's all right," I whispered in French. Words I had taught myself over 10 years for the day we might reunite. Amy's eyes widened. "The police are here to help us." New tears welled up in Amy's eyes. This time, they were tears of understanding. Airport police arrived and began assessing the situation. Michael and Jennifer quietly raised their hands, showing no signs of resistance. They probably understood the gravity of international kidnapping charges. In the midst of that chaos, Amy ran to me. Mother and daughter embraced. 10 years' worth of tears flowed out. "I'm sorry, Mom. It's okay now. Everything's all right. Mommy was always looking for you." The pearl necklace gleamed in the morning sun, as if celebrating our reunion. However, this was not the end, but a new beginning. 10 years had created a deep gulf that couldn't be easily bridged. It would take much more time to heal Amy's emotional wounds from learning the truth. In the car heading to Paris Police Headquarters, I made a firm vow. This time, I would absolutely protect my daughter. And slowly but surely, we would reclaim our lost decade of time. At Paris Police Headquarters, gray walls and heavy air dominated the interrogation room. The sound of the Seine River could be heard through the window. Chief Inspector Jean-Pierre Dubois of the French police began taking statements through an interpreter. Michael and Jennifer were being questioned in separate rooms. Amy was resting in a special protection room with a psychological counselor present. I clutched my pearl necklace, preparing to hear the truth behind the 10-year nightmare. "Mrs. Williams, first let me confirm your memories of the incident from 10 years ago." Inspector Dubois's voice was surprisingly gentle. Specializing in international kidnapping cases, he was well versed in victim psychology. That day, I began speaking with a trembling voice. The events at Cambridge Side Galleria Mall. Amy's disappearance. And the 10 years of anguish that followed. The inspector occasionally nodded while taking detailed notes. Now, let me share the suspects' testimonies. Inspector Dubois opened a file. It was Michael's confession statement. The plan was surprisingly meticulous. Michael had begun preparations 3 years before the disappearance. Opening bank accounts in France. purchasing a villa in the Paris suburbs, and establishing business relationships with influential French companies. Everything was for a perfect escape. Jennifer's infertility was discovered around that time. Her obsession with Michael and yearning for motherhood began to corner her. The two gradually built a distorted form of love. "We deserve to have a child." Jennifer's testimony was relayed through the interpreter. Amy would receive the best education. Caroline wasn't worthy of that. My body trembled at Michael's words. Had his perfectionism finally made even his own child an object of control? The testimony continued. Jennifer was in charge of executing the kidnapping. She had lied to Amy, saying Mom had an accident, and led her from the shopping mall, then to Boston Logan International Airport in a prepared car, across the Atlantic in a private jet, to Paris. Everything had been perfectly calculated. We told Amy that her mother had died in an accident. Jennifer's voice trembled. At first, she cried every night. But gradually, she came to accept me as her mother. At those words, something snapped inside me. Accept? Did she have any choice? Hiding the fact that her real mother was alive for 10 years. Anger and sadness welled up. But Inspector Dubois quietly restrained me. "Mrs. Williams, I understand your anger. However, Amy's psychological care is the top priority right now." He opened another file. It was Amy's psychological evaluation report. For 10 years, Amy had attended an elite boarding school in Switzerland. Bilingual education in French and English. Horseback riding, tennis, piano. Everything was arranged in the finest environment. However, inside that luxurious cage, Amy's heart had surely been wounded. The lie about her mother's death. Forced adaptation to a new environment. And Michael's perfectionist expectations. According to Amy's testimony, she began to realize the truth around age 13. The psychologist's report was read aloud. Internet searches. Old newspaper articles. And my social media accounts. Amy had gradually pieced together the truth. But she said she didn't have the courage to run away. Those words pained my heart. How much fear and loneliness must a 13-year-old girl have felt? The clock in the interrogation room pointed to 6 p.m. The sun was setting over the Seine River. Inspector Dubois asked his final question. "Do you wish to press charges?" The answer was clear. Yes. Let them face legal judgment. International kidnapping. Child abduction. Abuse. Prosecution was decided in both France and America. When I reunited with Amy in the protection room, she said in a small voice, "Mom, I tried my best to live." At those words, I couldn't help but cry. I held her tightly. The pearl necklace gleamed between us. "You did so well. Now, let's take our time and walk together." The Paris night view was visible from the room window. The lights of the Eiffel Tower shone as if watching over the mother and daughter's new beginning. But this was not the end. The next day, international media began extensively covering the case. Goldman Sachs bankers international kidnapping, 10-year hidden truth. Headlines danced across pages. Michael and Jennifer's trials would draw significant attention in both countries. A corporate executive's planned kidnapping. International flight. And 10 years of cover-up. Everything became sensational material. What awaited us was testimony in court, psychological therapy, and a long journey to fill the lost decade. But we would never be torn apart again. Dr. Marie Dupont, the child psychologist who would be treating Amy, said, "Recovery will take time. But you two will definitely overcome this." In the Paris night sky, a full moon shone, as if announcing the beginning of a new chapter. In a Boston courthouse in December, as snow quietly accumulated, the final verdict was delivered. Defendants Michael Williams and Jennifer Wright are hereby sentenced to 20 years imprisonment each for international kidnapping, child abduction, and abuse charges. The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. Asset forfeiture and victim compensation orders were also added. Michael's expression remained unchanged until the end, but Jennifer collapsed in tears. "So it's all over now," Amy whispered softly beside me. Over these 9 months, we had stood at countless witness stands. Trials in both France and America. Media bombardment. And above all, the battle with emotional wounds. After the sentencing, Michael sent a letter from prison. "Caroline, Amy, I won't ask for forgiveness. I just want you to know that I had my own kind of love." After reading that letter, Amy cried all night. In her 16 years of life, she had lost a father twice. But this time, it was her own choice to part ways. "Mom, I want to burn that letter." In front of the fireplace, Amy said this. Together, we committed Michael's final words to the flames. Jennifer's end was even more tragic. 2 months into her sentence, she lost her mind. According to the prison psychologist, she still spends her days seeing visions of my daughter. However, our story doesn't end here. I established a support organization called Finding Hope. It's an organization that supports children who have been victims of international kidnapping and their families. Amy sometimes talks with children who have had similar experiences. Her experience has become a source of hope for many children. "Hey Mom, I want to become a psychological counselor." One day, Amy told me this. She wanted to help children dealing with trauma. Her eyes held strong determination. School life has also begun to get back on track. New life at Boston Latin School. She joined the swim team and is already performing as the team's ace. Using her bilingual skills in French and English, she also serves as an International Exchange Committee member. And most importantly, we began creating new memories together. On holidays, we celebrated 10 years' worth of birthdays, lighting candles one by one on 16 cakes, each flame carrying thoughts of lost time. "Mom, can we go back to that mall again?" Amy's suggestion surprised me. But her expression was peaceful. Cambridgeside Galleria Mall showed the same bustle as 10 years ago. Standing in that children's clothing section, Amy let out a deep sigh. You know, Mom, I always remembered that white dress. So. She pulled out a dress from her shopping bag. I thought it was my turn to buy it for you. It was a dress identical to the white lace dress she had tried on 10 years ago. This time, it was exactly Amy's size. I couldn't help but cry. The pearl necklace gleamed above my joyfully trembling heart. Currently, Amy continues with psychological counseling while gradually regaining her bright smile. Some nights she's still haunted by nightmares. Some days she struggles with flashbacks. But she no longer needs to bear it alone. Mom, we'll be all right, won't we? Yes, absolutely. Because we'll never be separated again. 10 years ago, that white dress was too big. But now, it's the perfect size for Amy. Perhaps it's the same with our relationship. Taking time, little by little, but surely, we can nurture a true mother-daughter bond. The pearl necklace still gently gleams at Amy's neck. From mother to daughter. And someday, it will be passed on to her daughter. As proof of love that will never be broken. Well, tomorrow's another new day. Taking Amy's hand, I smiled softly. Surely many more trials await us in life ahead. But we're no longer afraid. After all, we have so much time to reclaim together.